Hello everyone and welcome back to the BMW Blog YouTube channel. This is the 2023 BMW X1 and it's the third generation X1. And as you can see, it comes with an all new design. And in this video, we're going to walk through some of the exterior design, its interior design, its tech, some of its practicality, and we're going to take it for a test drive. And as always, if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, leave a like on the video, and click the little bell icon for notifications for whenever we post a new video. For the third generation BMW X1, we get all new styling. As you can see here, you have an all new front end design with a big chunky kidney grille, but it isn't anywhere near as big as some of the other new BMWs like the M4 and the iX. It has new sleek headlights, some cool silver trim because this is not the M Sport model, and a very aggressively sculpted hood, as you can see there and there. This new styling is a little sportier than the previous generation, and as you can see here, it has a more aggressive roof line, a slimmer window line, and a more sort of hatchback look to it than the previous generation X1. The flush door handles are similar to what you'll find in a BMW i4, and you have some 3D looking tail lights. As you can see, I can kind of stick my hand behind them there. The back end is good looking with those same 3D looking tail lights. You get a cool roof spoiler up there, but interestingly, no visible exhaust pipes. It's kind of new for a BMW to not have visible exhaust pipes. Some fans will not like that, but honestly, most customers will never notice. This new wheel design is a little more rugged and off-roady looking than the M Sport wheels, which are a little sportier looking. Despite the decent back seat space, as you can see, the trunk is rather small. Can't really fit too much. I fit my dog back here, and he was a little squished. He didn't love it. So it's not the most practical trunk, but it's not too bad. You have this little cover here. You have some under storage space down here, spare tire in there, little donut. But it's not too bad. It could be bigger though. Okay, so here's the inside of the new X1. And for the most part, it's really nice looking, actually. I actually think visually and design-wise, this might be one of BMW's best interiors. The dash layout is all new. You have these new horizontal vents right here, which I really like. You have new door panels, which are really nice, actually. You have these cool, chunky grab handles that like kind of stick out far and kind of hang out like that. It's just a really good looking car on the inside. You have the new iDrive screen with the kind of curved big display, which is like two screens built into one display, which looks really nice. You have this cool cantilevered center console armrest, which is cool looking, but is compromised in terms of practicality because you lose like a cubby, you know? So when you pop this open, you only have this tiny little tray. It's barely, you can't even fit a smartphone in here. I have like keys and stuff. It's really not that useful. Now under here, you have all this space. You can put like, whatever you want. Like I have a, my phone case. I'm using my phone for something right now. So you can put stuff there. You can put, a water bottle underneath here, whatever. But the problem is it's not enclosed on the side. So you can't really put a lot of things that can roll around or fall over or tip over because they'll fall out. So that kind of ruins the point of like a cubby, you know what I mean? Like with a traditional armrest, you press a button, you have a big deep cubby hole that you can put, tall items in or whatever. And that's really helpful. In this, it's kind of cool that you have this tray with like a rubberized, like non-slip coating, which is cool, but like it just kind of ruins the practicality a little bit. It looks really good. Like this whole cantilevered arm design looks really cool, but it's kind of compromised in terms of practicality. Up here to normal cup holders, it's fine, but one thing that's interesting is the smartphone. The wireless charger for the smartphone is pretty cool. It sits your phone upright, and normally that's really annoying because the phone falls forward and stuff like that as you drive. In a lot of cars, that's really annoying, but in this one, there's a little like flap. There's a little flapper that kind of clicks into place and holds your phone in place, which is pretty cool. I like that. And around it, is a cool set like of LEDs in like a interesting little slash pattern that light up when the rest of the ambient lighting comes on. That looks pretty cool, kind of like highlights your phone, which looks kind of neat. Just in terms of design, this is a really nice cabin. I like the horizontal air vents. The steering wheel looks really cool. The leather feels a little cheap compared to the other BMWs and other cars, but otherwise it's really fine. I like the way it looks a lot. I like the three-spoke design. It's a very modern, high-tech looking car, and I think BMW nailed the design. However, there are some things that are really, really, really annoying about the interior of this car. The first thing is the lack of rotary dial. Ever since iDrive has been invented, back with the E65 series in 2004, there has been a rotary dial to control the iDrive screen from here. Even when BMW added touchscreen capability to iDrive 7 and now iDrive 8, even with other iDrive 8 cars, there is a rotary dial to control the system without having to only use touchscreen. In the X1, that is gone. There is no more rotary dial. It is touchscreen only. Not only is there no more rotary dial, gone with it are the redundant buttons for like home, media, things like that right here. So the physical buttons that used to be able to just like quick buttons, hit media, bang, navigation, bang, real easy, pop everything, pop the important stuff up real quick. Those are gone. Now they're only kind of gone actually, because they're still here, but they're all on the touchscreen. So like on the sidebar, if you mess with the touchscreen, you have media, telephone, and nav, and then there's a home button as well, but it's all touch-based. And the annoying part about that is that the redundant bar of buttons is kind of behind the steering wheel, so you have to kind of like I can't see it because the steering wheel's in the way. So I have to like move my head around to see it, which is annoying, especially while you're driving. And all touch-based controls are fine in many cars where that was the point from the beginning. But because that wasn't the point with iDrive 8 when it was first built, because other cars had rotary dials, it seems like an afterthought in this car. And that's a little frustrating. For instance, the screen is too far away. I am not an overly short man. I'm 5'9", so my wingspan is pretty decent, right? It's pretty normal, pretty average. This is my arm fully extended in my seated position. I'm not sitting, I'm not like leaning back, I'm not doing anything weird. This is my normal seating position. That's my arm fully extended. I cannot reach the screen, right? So I have to lean forward to touch the screen. And if I want to touch the screen without having a perfectly fully extended arm, which is annoying, right? I have to lean pretty far forward. Now, while I'm driving, that's annoying, okay? Now, maybe that's like a minor gripe, but while you're driving, you want to focus on driving, not leaning forward to mess with a touch screen. That's just ridiculous. So it's too far away for starters. Secondly, because all the climate controls are built into the touchscreen, which admittedly is every iDrive 8 car, and there's no rotary dial to mess with anything, it really makes the simplest of tasks like downright dangerous at times while you're driving. I had a little test with my wife. I wanted to see if a newcomer to iDrive 8 could mess with the climate controls while I was driving, so it's even easier for her while I was driving, to see how quickly she could change, the fan speed and the direction of the air and the temperature. And admittedly, I borrowed this idea from Rory Reid. I tried it with my wife, and it took her like 30 seconds to figure out how to change all the airspeed and stuff. Now that's like, okay, that's 30 seconds. That's not that bad. But while you're driving, that's annoying. Okay, if I had dials and physical buttons, it'd be done in 5. And any newcomer could do it in 5 seconds, no problem. You turn the temperature dials, click the fan speed buttons, done, right? BMW would argue that instead of that, you're supposed to use the voice controls, because voice controls are supposed to be the highlight of premium simplicity, right? I just talk to the car. I don't have to do anything. I just talk to it and it does it for me, right? That's supposed to be the pinnacle of premium technology. So let's see if that's actually better. So we're going to compare the time that it took to use this touchscreen, and then we're going to compare that to the voice controls in this and see which one is actually faster and actually easier to use. Okay, so let's try the voice controls, starting now. Hey BMW, change the temperature on my side to 75 degrees.
I'm setting your temperature to 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay. Hey BMW, set the fan speed to 3.
I will set level 3 for the front seats.
Okay. So that's pretty good, right? But that definitely took longer than using physical controls in my E90. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's easier and quicker to just change a dial. Done. I don't have to ask it. I don't have to wait for it to register. I don't have to do any of that. It's just, it's faster, and speed is the ultimate luxury. So I don't understand why BMW is pushing voice controls. To me, it makes no sense to make that the primary control system for the climate control. I think it's easier and faster to use physical buttons. It's safer. You can do it without looking, because you can acclimate yourself and you use muscle memory to kind of just remember where all the controls are. You don't have to worry about touch screens. You don't have to look away from the road. You don't have to ask the damn car any questions. You don't have to remember specific commands. Just bang, bang, bang. It's all done. And it's so much faster and so much simpler. Now here in the back seat, there's actually quite a bit of room for adults. I mean, I'm, again, not a large man. I'm only 5'9". But that's about average. It's about an average size adult, at least in America. And this is behind the passenger seat, but I have it set up for my position. So it's exactly the same as my driving position. So I'm sitting behind myself, and I have plenty of knee room. I have plenty of headroom. I'm actually really comfy back here. I can stretch my legs out pretty far. There's a very small transmission hump, like a transmission tunnel. So, you know, moving around isn't really a problem. There's a little cubby here to put some stuff. There are 2 USB-C ports to charge some stuff. You have a decent armrest, which I don't know why BMW isn't the only company that does this, but I don't get why they integrate the cup holders right here, because it kind of makes it uncomfortable a little bit. I mean, it's not a problem, but like, it'd be nice if this was just all flat and then the cup holders like came out of here or something, but it's fine. You get 2 cup holders here, decent armrest. You know, you've got little storage net there, decent cubbies for drinks. You can actually put a decent sized bottle in there. Like, you know, as a grown adult, you can be pretty comfortable back here. Headrest isn't bad. You know, you can actually be cozy back here over a pretty long journey. It's really not bad at all, actually. I would say the only problem is that for a car seat, like I fit car seats in the back of these, the front passenger, their knees are basically touching the dashboard. There's just not enough room for a reverse-facing car seat here behind the passenger seat without pushing the front passenger like all the way into the dashboard. There's just not that much space. It's pretty tight back here. And by comparison, I also own a Volkswagen Tiguan on the MQB chassis, and it fits a car seat better in the back than this does. However, if you're not fitting car seats, like if you just have maybe, you know, teenagers or something like that, like your children are old enough to not be in car seats anymore, this is fine for them. This will be perfect. Okay, but practicality and interior and stuff is only really one part of what makes a good BMW X1, right? Because there are plenty of front-wheel drive-based crossovers that are practical and comfortable and have nice interiors with nice tech. But what makes a BMW X1 is how good it is to drive, because the whole point of getting an X1 is to get something that's you're getting a BMW. You have to get something that's sportier to drive than everything else. If you want something that's sportier, that's a little more fun to drive, you buy the BMW X1. So let's take it for a little spin and see if it's actually sportier. So I am not going to take this car on some twisty canyon roads. And the reason for that is that's not what this car is meant to do. This car is meant to be, you know, your suburban, you know, around town family hauler, grocery getter, but that can also have a little bit of fun. The car is really actually quite good to drive. So let's turn here. The steering is well weighted. It builds up weight nicely as you turn in. There's no feel, but that's okay. It builds up weight nicely. The front end is responsive. There's a little too much body roll, especially because the suspension's pretty firm, so it's kind of odd that you get a firm suspension, but also a lot of body roll. The engine is great, typical BMW P48. 241 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Really good engine. Visibility is really good. It's the only BMW I've driven in recent years where I don't have the seat as low as it possibly goes, though. I kind of have it up a little bit higher. It kind of feels like a big hatchback. It feels like a big hot hatchback, honestly. It's pretty fun to drive. If I'm being honest, it has steering that's better than most BMWs. The weight builds up nicely off center, so you get a good idea of what the front wheels are doing. The front end bites well. It's a solid little car. It really is. I'd say the suspension's a little bit firm. I don't mind it, but I can imagine people who are buying cars in this segment would want something a little more comfortable. And the annoying part is you don't really get a great handling payoff from the firm suspension because it still rolls quite a bit through corners. So I'd like it to stay a little bit flatter if it's going to be that firm, but honestly, the amount of times that I've pitched this car into a corner enough for the body to roll during my week with it have been very, very seldom, so I don't really see that as a big issue. I think this is a really good little crossover to drive. I really do. I think it's probably among the most fun. So yeah, I mean, the Audi Q3, that's pretty good to drive. This is probably a little bit better than that car. The Volkswagen Tiguan's also fun to drive. I'd say this is probably a little bit more fun than that car. Yeah, it's good. It's a solid little car. Seats are really comfy, great sight lines. I can see through the back really well. There's really no blind spots, good visibility. It's quick too. So if I put my foot down, it's not bad. BMW claims 0 to 60 in like 6.2 seconds, which honestly, who cares? If you care about 0 to 60 in this thing, you need to rearrange your priorities. It's not what this car is about. It's quick enough to get you onto the highway quickly. It's quick enough to be fun. It's quick enough to exploit gaps in traffic. The transmission, once you're on the move, is great. It kicks down really quickly. It shifts gears quickly. It's really smooth. It's a good transmission once you're on the move. Yeah, I'd say the only real complaint I have is annoying throttle tip-in. That's really it. And whatever the calibration is there. Another beef of mine with this car is the lack of paddle shifters. Now, not every X1 lacks paddle shifters. Only non-M Sport models lack paddle shifters. It's because of this little toggle shifter right here. Now, mostly this is fine, except for the fact that it has no ability to shift gears manually. So I can't shift my gears manually with this, which means without paddle shifters, there's no way to control the transmission. I can't shift gears on my own. And for the most part, that's fine, because the transmission is very good at just selecting its own gears. But for instance, when I drove this in Palm Springs and I was going down a mountain, I wanted to select lower gears to kind of keep me from having to ride the brakes going down the mountain. But I couldn't. If I'm being real, most customers who buy this car are never going to use paddle shifters, ever. So maybe that's a stupid gripe, but it's one of mine. Other than that, it's a great little car. I've been driving it mostly in like the personal mode, which is like your comfort setting. You just go to my modes. There's personal, sport, efficient, and if you move over, expressive. But you go into sport and it sharpens the throttle response up, gives you some cool red accents in the gauges and lights and stuff, and the head-up display, which the head-up display is excellent, by the way. Gives you a ton of information, very clear, but it's not too annoying, doesn't get in your way. But now I'm in sports, so the steering weight's up a little bit. It's really not any different or any better. It's a little bit sportier, I guess, but barely. It makes the car a little more aggressive. It changes the fake sound of the engine. It's okay. It makes a little bit of a difference, but really not much. I just keep it in personal, honestly, the whole time. Efficient is nice because it dulls the throttle response a little bit. It makes it a little more relaxed, and that's cool. And then if you go to expressive, it really is just, it seems like it's just the personal driving mode, but with like funky graphics on the screen. So it looks like there's like paint spilled everywhere on the screen. That's really it. I think it changes like the mood light and the ambient lighting and all that. On BMW's past, there was either like switch, it was an up and down button. You would cycle through the modes that way. And that was easy because you didn't have to look. You just click it until it got like it cycled through into the mode you wanted. I do like the brakes though. I think the brakes are good. They're a little mushy at the top, but you know, this is kind of a relaxed car, so I'm okay with that. But they're effective. You know, they once you like get past the mush and get into the meat of the pedal, it brakes well, and then you get comfortable with it. You get kind of used to it and the way that works, and it's not a problem at all. So to kind of wrap up how this car drives, it's a good little sporty crossover that is fun to drive. So if you're looking for something that's on the sportier side of you know, crossovers, this is probably your best bet. This car, compared to its competitors, not, you know, the previous generation, I do think that this is probably the best driving car overall out of all of them. The Audi Q3 is a bit bland. You know, the Volkswagen doesn't feel as premium as this. I haven't driven the Mercedes GLA, so I can't compare it to that. But in terms of this car's main competitor is the Audi Q3. That's really what this car's main competitor is. And in terms of that car, this is more fun to drive than that. I will say that the Q3 feels a little more refined than this in terms of, you know, engine and transmission calibration and things like that. It feels a little more refined than this, but this is more fun. So I guess you really have to just kind of determine what you want. Do you want something that's sportier and more exciting, or do you want something that's kind of more comfortable and more refined? And that's, I would say, how you would choose between the two cars. So overall, what do I think about the BMW X1? Well, I think overall I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It's a solid little crossover. It's fun to drive, and it looks really good, and the interior is really nice to look at, and it's really comfortable. And I think it's priced pretty well. You know, it starts in the low 40s. This one's closer to 50. I think this one's like 47,000 after options. So it's a pretty good little car for the money. And if it were my money, this would probably be the crossover I bought in the segment.